And welcome back, everyone, to our day 2 of Bochum Regionals. It is me again, Alex, alongside Amy for our round 3 of day 2 after an exciting match where we did get to see that Zacian V-Star come into play, which unfortunately did fall to Miroslav's Lost Box. Which is a bit unfortunate, but he's still in a great spot. Still had 7 wins, I believe, but Miroslav again showing on stream just how strong of a player he is.
Absolutely, and it's so exciting to see all these different styles of decks coming into day 2 as well. It's not the same thing one after another. We have so many surprises left in store.
Yep, and one of those surprises is coming up in this round. We are going to be bringing you one of those decks which I believe the stream chat has been requesting over some time now. Is going to be that Lugia Vikavolt list, which is being piloted by one of our Polish players, I believe.
You heard that correctly. Both of the gargantuan giants that we've seen throughout this tournament together.
Yep, and he'll be up against Karl Peters, another sort of seasoned player from Germany, also sort of piloting, I believe, a deck that we've already seen before, but both our players here just in shot of our camera, just setting themselves up alongside our table judge. Really excited to see just another take on another deck that we've already seen a number of times.
It's exciting to see if the kind of decks that we know and love already going up against these slightly more unknown decks that really we haven't seen a lot of.
No,
whether they can kind of dance around one another.
Exactly, and as we can just see there, it's another little quick surprise. Karl is sort of known for playing these little different decks as well, but this Frostmoth box, we're going to call it just very much a water box type deck because it heavily leans on that kind of Articuno that we've seen being splashed into Palkia lists, but does focus on that Frostmoth to be able to kind of help maneuver some of those energies and sort of just rain dance in, but is also playing our favorite Inteleon line, as you see that
yes.
Sobble in the active spot.
Dominating force throughout this meta. Inteleon and Drizzar have not been forgotten. Today they're back.
Yep, come on chat, give us just a quick heads up. Who do you think is going to take this game as we already kick it off for our round 3 in day 2? Or Milosh already starting with that capture energy on that Lugia V.
Yeah, a very nice typical play. Their prize cards don't seem too bad at all on either side, to be honest. They're quite well spread throughout their decks. They've got multiples of each of these in their decks, presumably. So a lot of the cards don't seem that bad. Having a look through the deck right now, piecing up the options, checking how much energy is in there is really important for Lugia, checking they haven't missed anything essential. Obviously, Lugia generally only runs 2 double turbo energy, so that one might be one to look out for, especially considering the inclusion of Articuno in Karl's deck. Articuno being very well known for trapping your opponent by consistently paralyzing them one turn after another. So we'll be able to see in this matchup whether Lugia has enough strength in it to boost away from that paralysis through either evolution or bouncing back to the bench.
Yeah, do you know what I'm really excited to see is all of those shady dealings come into play once again. It's something we've missed, or I've missed for some time now, but it's just one of those items and sort of utility cards that allow you to grab anything you want in your deck. And just from those trainer cards, just so much utility there with the instant water energy attached to the Sobble as well. That great attack allows itself to kind of bench more of those combo pieces down together. As Karl is heavily leaning on a lot of those single prizes as well, he's also playing some unique cards in his list, and I believe that's a Radiant Alakazam that we also see listed there as well.
With the Painful Spoons ability, I've always felt that sounds really quite terrifying. Alakazam's really, really unique and is not used in loads of decks as one of the lesser used Radiants. It's really interesting to see it come into play here. And I imagine it's going to be quite useful moving their opponent's damage counters around.
Yeah, it's such a unique way of sort of kind of increasing damage counters on certain Pokemon, because Carl Peters does play things like that Crabominable V as well, with that unique attack, particularly trying to cater for a wide breadth of meta decks within his list here. But that's why he has so many combo pieces, and that's why he's going with this Inteleon engine that we've seen historically before in so many different types of meta decks. You know, it goes from Palkia to Arceus, and it's just been able to fit in so many different ways, because then you're picking up all those pieces that you want. But as you can see there, Carl has just grabbed 2 further Sobbles and benched them with that attack from the Sobble in the active spot there, as Milosh kicks things off with a research.
Yeah, hopefully getting some really useful things in the discard there. It seemed like a lot, so hopefully those Archeops are in there. Straight into Lugia V-Star already, putting the pressure on Carl. Can Carl come back from it? Maybe. They've definitely got the tools in their deck to be able to manage that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Carl's obviously would have played against a number of Lugia matchups already. We are sort of just confirming there is that Vikavolt in Milosh's deck as well. Just another utility attacker. Maybe it's one of those that kind of helps in the mirror match, dealing a heavy amount of damage with weakness as well. Something not too many people would, you know, typically associate with a Lugia V or Lugia V-Star deck, as it were. But as you can see, starting to place it down now. Also on the bench, that shiny variant there, just on the bench, just as he's just using Summoning Star to get those Archeops as well. And there comes the first Primal Turbo of this series.
Yeah, we're getting those turbos right on there. Vikavolt has been chosen in this deck as an attacker in this instance. I think it's a really intelligent choice. They're going to be item locking, and obviously those Sobbles evolving into those Drizzies, they're going to be searching down items, supporters, any trainer card, but item locking at least restricts what those Drizzile can achieve and get a cheeky knockout in the process.
That's it, just limiting those options to Carl to those combo pieces, really kind of just trying to stop his game plan from being able to just step up against Milosh's deck, and then Milosh can kind of find ways to maneuver around, as we see the hard retreat there by the Lugia V-Star into the Vikavolt. Instantly using that Paralyzing Gaze, and there's the first KO of this round as well, because Sobble is weak to Lightning.
Yeah, Sobble did a great job of bringing their friends onto the bench, but it wasn't enough.
But there comes a second Sobble into the active spot as well.
Oh, and I think by the looks of it, we just got to bench an Ice Cube. Ooh, that's the block face Ice Cube, so it can stop basic Pokemon from attacking, just like Vikavolt.
Yeah, it does look like Carl has a number of answers in this deck itself. Of course, still needs to find ways to get it powered up, because it does require 3 energies, 1 water and 2 colored energy to use that block-faced attack to 70 damage during your opponent's next turn. As you just mentioned, Amy, prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemon. So it does protect itself quite well against this Vikavolt. Doesn't quite stop the actual item locking, sort of reduction of the capabilities in Carl's deck with those combo pieces, but gives him a chance to be able to do so and just kind of, again, limit what Milosh is able to do, because that Ice Cube wouldn't be going anywhere, as Carl is also just picking up a Wash energy to attach to that Ice Cube as well, just kind of threatening that potential block face attack on Milosh's side.
Yeah, it's an interesting plethora of single prize attackers in this deck that all have unique abilities that help them against lots of different matchups and lots of different Pokemon within those matchups. I like that Carl isn't shying away from using that Ice Cube, even though there's evolution Pokemon on the other side of the board.
Yeah, exactly that. And I guess Milosh is now trying to work out exactly how he can potentially deal with the Ice Cube. Of course, it only prevents attacks from basic Pokemon, or preventing damage from basic Pokemon. And Milosh does play multiple non-basic Pokemon there as well. We already see 3 on the bench with the 2 Archeops and the Lugia V-Star. So again, has options himself how to deal with this and how to react and adapt to Carl's fairly strange playstyle, because he probably wouldn't have expected to come up against this kind of deck.
No, I think it's probably quite an interesting surprise for them, but I think it's something they can definitely deal with. Benching that Raikou is going to make a big difference here. Being able to take out more water-type Pokemon. The Manaphy's down on Carl's side, though, as it, there we go, passes over.
Yeah, nothing too much. It was a very quick turn there from Carl. Of course, I believe that Ice Cube may be able to sort of take a hit initially, but Carl hasn't been able to get too much going at this stage, with Milosh being able to stop all those item cards being played from Carl's side, particularly after that Marnie as well, which is another devastating combo that we've discussed with Marnie and Marnie Path. But this one, Marnie Item Lock, really sort of restricts what's available, as Milos is starting to power up other Pokemon as well. That Raikou also getting a speed energy, allowing him to draw extra cards. And everything just seems to be going Milos's way currently.
It does, it does. They seem to have a really strong board presence. Kind of everything that you'd expect they'd want in this matchup is there and present. They've got a few things to deal with on the other side of the board, but generally they're in a really, really strong state here. They can still Primal Turbo as long as they're using their energy well. They're managing to use those speed energies from hand as well, which is essential for getting that extra card draw.
Yeah, and as we can see, he's just kind of determining exactly what he's going to be doing. Does deal the 50 damage, still item knocking Carl's board state, and Carl just draws his card, unable to really find anything else to get going, and just has to deal with the 10 damage as Ice Cube just is instantly replied, and it's just a trading of attacks right now.
These guys are ready to go. They're just going back and forth so quickly. And bye, Ice Cube. Sorry you didn't get a chance to try and stop the Vikavolt item lock.
Yeah, and that's it.
That's enough. That's enough.
After just 3 prizes taken there, that winner for part of round 1 game. Round 3, game 1 is Milosh.
Yes, oh my goodness. You can see there how that just commanding board state was far too much. Ice Cube then getting knocked out meant they couldn't break the item lock, which I imagine is what it's there for. That's Ice Cube's job, and it got taken away from it.
Yeah, it was very quickly dealt with and not too much going for it. Carl, that Marnie really impacting his any sort of capabilities of coming back into the game alongside that item locking of that Vikavolt. Vikavolt really coming to the fore here in a deck, like we mentioned, not what we'd expect to see too often.
No, it's not typical of Lugia, but it works. And we've proved it here today that already that combination is worthy of praise and showing that Lugia has other viable attackers that you may not have even considered yet.
Yeah, and with this next game now, Carl will be likely going first and looking for that opportunity to try and find a way to really start setting up his board nice and early, maybe trying to hopefully not get item locked too quickly, of course, because that Lugia does still need a bit of an extra turn to really allow that summoning star to happen and power up a lot of the different attackers. But we might then see Milosh maybe go for a bit more of an aggro strategy and seeing how that pans out as well. So I'm really, really excited to see how game 2 of this matchup will happen. As we see the prizes being placed, that is double Sobble on the right-hand side for Carl there, but the big, massive Vikavolt V that was so important in game 1, we can see just chilling out there in the prizes for Milosh as well. But Carl is instantly able to potentially take one of those Sobble pieces straight out.
Yeah, thank goodness for the heavy ball in the starting opening hand.
Yeah, opening also with that Articuno, with that really, really cool attack to kind of begin paralyzing your opponent's board as well. We've seen people start to splash it into Palkia decks, which, although has seen a lot less play now, but it has been one way to kind of counter how dominant Lugia has been against decks like the Palkia Inteleon list that we've seen in previous formats. We do see the little Snom come down as well.
The little shiny Snom, it's so good.
Just hoping to see Carl able to get that Frostmoth out as soon as possible. Carl's just playing down some of those items as well, kind of get it out early where possible. Just begin to try and utilize some of those item cards before he does potentially get item locked. But little does he know, it's a little bit unlikely at the moment.
Yeah, Carl's being very cautious here, and I think it's a really strong play. Taking a different approach from last game, but not really out of choice. That Articuno is stuck in the active right now, so getting a few different Pokemon on the bench, making sure that Frosmoth is there potentially nice and early on, might stop what happened last game happening again, where Carl will be able to attach energy faster with Frosmoth.
Yeah, with so many utility attackers because of that Frostmoth ability, that Articuno with just that double water being attached, hopefully as soon at some stage, that Wild Freeze for 70 damage does deal some damage to itself, 50, but then your opponent's active Pokemon is automatically paralyzed. No flip, nothing like that involved. It's one of those incredible effects, and Paralyze, unless there's a way for Milosh to kind of pivot around or switch out of it, I don't believe there is not anything in his list right now that will allow him to do so, will mean that whatever Pokemon is paralyzed does get stuck. And one of those combo pieces that Carl plays that we've seen alongside that Articuno is that Emergency Jelly.
Emergency Jelly, it's so good!
At the end of each turn, if your Pokemon this card is attached to has 30 HP or less, and any damage counters on it, heal 120 from it, so it would just go straight back up to full health.
So if you can't poke that Articuno for a few damage, unfortunately, it's going to have its jelly snack and be right as rain again.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a concern when you're a Lugia player, seeing that staring down into you, knowing that it's going to be potentially attacking from turn 2 onwards. I guess the only positive aspect from Milosh's side right now, a way of getting out of paralysis or special conditions, is actually evolving up your basic Pokemon. So that might be one way or one route that Milosh can sort of handle what is going on here.
Yeah, Articuno won't be able to survive if Lugia is able to evolve next turn. It can't evolve this turn, so it could be a really kind of easy way to get out of this situation. Hopefully they're able to play it well, but it looks like, unfortunately, that's it for the time being.
Yeah, we have Carl here instantly going to his first shady dealings. And have we seen an Inteleon in Bochum Regional so far?
No, we haven't!
So it is the first shady deal of the tournament. And particularly, of course, into day 2. Does go for that Irida, which has, again, more combo pieces that allows Carl to kind of start chaining on his board. Does go for the additional Articuno. Will likely then look to utilize that Frostmoth as soon as possible, because then he can double chain Articunos as soon as possible. And we could see this game plan come to fruition in this game too. So really excited to see this happen. But let's see if Milosh is going to find a way out of it as well.
Yeah, Irida's such a strong supporter in both decks, potentially. It works nicely in both. But being able to fetch that Water-type Pokemon and an item card is so essential to keeping the flow of Carl's deck, the momentum picking up and up and up.
Yeah, and Carl does just use a Wild Freeze to actually paralyze the Lugia there. Of course, it forces Milosh to find that Lugia V-Star. Does deal the 50 damage to itself, but that's largely irrelevant. And there's the instant evolve. But that's just the only one opportunity to get out of that paralyze condition. So Milosh will now have to try and find a way or route to be able to just stop this from happening going forward. And do we see, is that a...
I think that might be an Archeops.
Yeah, I think that might be one of the arts of the Archeops. Being discarded there from the quick ball. So that's at least another part of the puzzle. I'm just having a quick look through Milosh's deck right now. I can't actually see, just reconfirming, I don't believe there is any way of sort of switching out should a Pokemon get paralyzed and stuck in the active position.
Sadly not.
So it does mean Milosh may be facing up against this Articuno for quite some time. And not able to do too much for the time being. But let's just see if Milosh maybe can find another game plan. If he removes this Articuno, and if Carl is unable to find a way to maybe get a Frostmoth out, maybe that second Articuno might not be able to actually end up attacking again to keep paralyzing this Lugia. So let's just see how this plays out for everyone.
Yeah, looking at it, there's no Manaphy on bench right now, so that Raikou could do some serious damage, taking out potentially more than one Articuno on a turn.
Yeah, and that's it. And it looks like that's what Milosh is eyeing up as a potential way out of this game and trying to find a way to combat both of those Articunos or maybe the Snom. There's a few options available here. Of course, Carl is likely to play some form of recovery, I would have thought, but having a little look again, maybe not. Kind of just sort of relying on emergency jelly to kind of keep it up, keep it
there's
going.
Clara,
oh,
but I think that's
Clara
all. But
and
she is
Nessa.
only a one-of, and the Nessa, yeah. So they do have a bit of recovery, but it is essential to make sure they have some Drizzles to be able to search those with, ready to go. Yeah,
again, it's kind of thinking about all of those combo pieces, that shady dealing chain that you typically associate with those Sobbles, those Drizzles, and then those Intellions. That Nessa I just didn't quite see because it is one of those new arts, which is fantastic to see as well. So let's just see how, and I'm interested to see which Pokemon Milosh actually does target down, because there's a few options here. He could target down both the Articunos, of course, could target down the Snom, kind of stopping that Frostmoth coming into play as soon as possible. Of course, Milosh did see Carl have the additional Evo Incense in hand, potentially may have been played as well, but here comes the Raikou.
Here we go. I wonder who he's going to pick.
Yeah, so this is a really, really interesting point here, and I really want to know how he's going to try and target down. Is the active being KO'd and does choose the combo piece.
Yeah, that makes sense. Snom and Frostmoth can't accelerate energy to the active Pokemon. They can only accelerate to the bench. So with no other bench Pokemon for Carl, apart from now, they can't really do anything with that right now.
Yeah, and just taking away that potential double shading, or what we call big shady Intellion, to grab any 2 trainer cards from Carl's deck does really limit, again, limit the sort of options that are available. So Milosh identifying very quickly how to deal with that.
Flannery. Goodbye special energy, and that's really hard for Lugia to deal with.
Yeah, that's really important there. I mean, right now, I think, is that another Aurora attached to the Raikou?
It is, and it has a speed lightning energy. So Raikou is okay for the moment, but just managing any sort of energy denial or energy removal with Lugia can hurt your initial game plan. Yeah, because it does require that extra Aurora, because it is grass, lightning, metal for that amazing shot attack. Of course, it is limited a bit now because Carl has been able to bench that Manaphy, meaning that amazing shot's only really impacting the active Pokemon. But that was all Carl was able to do. That Flannery to try and limit Milosh just for 1 turn. Has got 1 Sobble down, which is sort of a bit of an easy target because you already know how much Carl's deck relies on combo pieces. So again, it'll be really, really cool to see how Milosh is going to play out his turn and see which Pokemon he's going to attack. Yeah, Milosh is having a really good look through the deck right now, probably realizing that that's their really final Aurora energy in those prize cards, so possibly opting to do something different instead of Raikou. And I think that's the lovely versatility of Lugia, is that even if something is ready and you're active, it doesn't mean that it's the one you've got to keep attacking with. And they've gone for the energy on the Luminion instead, knowing that they can loop it back into the deck for further use later, for that amazing ability to be able to fetch the 1 supporter from their deck, but also a really valid attacker in this matchup because of the amount of damage it pumps out. 120 is nothing to shy away from. No, that sort of opportunity to hit and run is like a fantastic, again, way of Pokemon being played in previous metas and previous times as well. There's a great play there by Milosh with the benching the Oranguru to go to the full bench of 5 before playing that collapsed stadium in a way to remove, is it a Guru? It's a Dunsparce,
oh, it's
actually.
A Dunsparce,
yeah,
sorry.
It's one of the new arts from Crown Zenith.
Oh, thank you very much for clarifying for me, Amy. That is one of the, it's, again, just kind of, maybe I was too fixated in this collapsed stadium play to remove the damaged Lugia out of the bench position. Yeah, that Dunsparce, I only really see his little head
Yeah,
just in the
actually,
bottom left
that
there.
art has loads of little Dunsparce hidden all over it. I don't even know how many are in there.
No, that's really, really cool. And we
It's
do
so
see
cute.
we do see the Luminion B take the knockout on the Articuno, and again just limiting those options from Carl here. Again, it looked like Carl was in a really good, strong position with that kind of Drizzle Shady dealing already, the double Articunos, the Snom ready to go. But then just instantly everything's turned around because that Raiku's been able to take out the active Pokemon and that Drizzle, and it's just really limited what's available for Carl, because that Sobble went down just then, of course, and now it's just Carl's looking for more Sobble pieces at this current moment in time.
If Carl's able to get that Frostmoth, maybe this can turn around, because that Articuno's ready on the bench still, so we can still potentially see that paralysis lock, but maybe that's why Dunsparce is sat in the active with its low health points. Like, maybe Milos just doesn't want to have to deal with that paralysis, so is willing to let Carl take a prize card.
Yeah, and it's one of those things right now. Milos has already taken 3 prizes in
pressure's
this matchup.
on.
Yeah, and so Carl just has to keep finding anything he can to try and stay in this game, but Milos does have such a commanding position. Has also taken the Vikavolt, which he's about to discard, potentially, I think, right there, right now as well.
Yeah, that's gone with an Ultra Ball. Bye.
Because, of course, we've seen a number of those Lightning Energies being used on that Raikou already. So there's a Luminion again.
It's back! That didn't take long.
And now he can combo with all those pieces to grab that bosses yet again, targeting down those Sobbles and just giving Carl nothing.
No wiggle room
at
all. No, they can't, without those essential pieces to keep the consistency of the deck plodding along. Milos completely destroys the flow of Carl's deck.
Yeah, and that's the main thing right now. Is it's great to see a player like Milos understand what this matchup really means for Carl in terms of how it's going to be played out. It's just another way of, again, I've spoken about it before, you don't typically expect necessarily to go, I need to cater for a Frostmoth box type deck in this current very mature meta game, but here Milos is adapting his playstyle and game style to be able to deal with the threat that Carl is currently showing on his board. And we do see just the attachment onto the Dunsparce so it can retreat or look to retreat, and that Luminion is also beginning to be powered up there by those primal turbos as well.
It's really inspiring to see Milos manage to deal with the threat of paralysis lock without any clear pivots in their own deck. That's incredible. This is just beauty to see on the board right now. That level of deck knowledge and understanding the way that Carl's deck works enough to be able to stop them in their tracks is just fascinating.
Yeah, so Carl's situation here right now, he does have a bit of a pivot option with that Snom. Of course, is 4 prizes behind Milos right now. It does find a quick ball, just quickly cuts Milos' deck after that Luminion going back into hiding into the deck as well. But I'm just trying to work out what Carl potentially could do here. He does need to get that paralysis going at some stage, but then he needs to find a way to start maneuvering some of the damage around to then just start keep paralyzing and not have to worry about his Articuno going down.
Yeah, Carl doesn't play any cards that allow him to switch his opponent's Pokemon into the active by the looks of things. Meaning that they can't do what I was thinking might be a nice play of bringing the Raikou forward and then paralyze locking that, because clearly at the moment Milos is using that Dunsparce as a bit of a scapegoat to that.
I think Milos has just found his Stoutland. He does have the powerful energies attached to it and just one extra energy. And that is the game.
By the dog!
Yeah, Stoutland coming out of nowhere, eventually coming down to just pick up 2 prizes off the active Snom and just being able to take the series and round for Milos there with that Lugia Vikavolt deck. Oh, it's just really, really unfortunate for Carl there. Obviously, he has to be really consistent to have gotten this far into making it into day 2, going to 7 wins. So he's obviously 1-1, potentially have 1-1 today as well, and still put himself in contention for a good finish.
Yeah, really fantastic finish.
But we just haven't quite seen it work, unfortunately. But that's credit to Miloš because he's been able to item lock Carl at the right moments and then start forcing a lot of pressure just by being able to take the right knockouts whilst Carl struggled to set up.
And not being afraid to let a Pokemon get knocked out, potentially offering the Dunsparce each turn was a scapegoat to allow Raikou to come forward and attack in case of an emergency, in case Carl did find something spectacular to come back with. So every single movement was so methodical, and it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, this is still very much a bread and butter Lugia deck at the end of the day. It does have that Vikavolt as a lightning attacker, an additional lightning attacker to kind of maybe help provide Miloš with extra turns, also to be able to provide that lightning attacker to make big KOs in the mirror matches or other Pokemon which are weak to lightning. So it's incredible to see Lugia play to such a great effect.
Yeah, it's incredible to see two decks that we know quite well at this point kind of merge together almost a little bit.
Yeah, and just with that, we're going to take a small break, but when we do return, we'll hopefully try and find a nice interview for you guys as well, but we'll be right back.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Pokemon TCG Regionals in Bochum. Today I'm here with the fantastic Robin and Ben. My name's Amy, and how are you feeling about the event, Robin?
Hi, yeah, it's great to be here because I actually am from Bochum, so it's awesome to have a regional, basically a home regional.
That's fantastic. How are you feeling confidence-wise on your home turf?
Definitely trying to win.
And how are you dealing with the versatility that we're seeing in the format with Lugia, Lost Box, Mew, and all of those other sort of fringe decks? How are you feeling deck choice-wise?
I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm gonna play, but I think it's a pretty interesting format. Like, of course, Lugia is very dominant, and not everyone likes that, but I think it's when you only have like one or two really like dominant decks, it's much easier to prepare for a tournament because you don't have to prepare for 10 different decks.
So you mentioned there that there are only a few decks that are playable in the sense of strength, but we've seen that there are some decks that are coming into the format now and again. We have Regigigas or maybe Arceus Pteranodon. Now it may be that you don't come up against all of those decks, but how do you prepare for such a versatile a range of decks?
Yeah, when preparing a deck in this format, I do still consider all those other decks that are not the top three, but I would not really mind taking maybe a bad matchup against one or two of those. Wouldn't even necessarily test against all of them. You should still have a plan against something like Arceus Pteranodon or Vikavolt. Really, as long as you're good against Lugia and Lost Box, I think that the other matchups don't matter that much.
Would that be a crowning piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's learning how to tech against such a mass array of cards at the moment in format? Technically, anything from quite a long way away now could come at you left field and really shock somebody. Would you just think that people should narrow that choice down in testing?
Yeah, you definitely can't beat everything. Of course, that would be ideal, but yeah, you always have to cut your losses somewhere and accept that, yeah, maybe like against some strategies you just won't beat them, and yeah, just be fine with that.
I guess you've seen variations of the more popular decks like Lost Box and Lugia with all of these interesting additions, say Kyogre Amazing Rare in Lugia, or say Dragon IV, which we've seen recently win OCIC. So are we going to see anything more? Are we going to see any more variations, do you think?
Lugia could technically play almost anything, but I think Amazing Kyogre is probably more just a meme. I don't think we will see that. But yeah, like something like Dragonite in the Lost Box decks is really good. I think Dragon Knight especially is really good against the more fringe decks. So Lost Box has good game plans against the most popular decks, and then if you put in something like Dragon Knight, it gives you a lot more answers against something like a Drellun, for example. So I think that definitely makes sense to play.
Thank you so much for those fantastic insights, Robin. That was really well appreciated. Thank you. We're going to head back now to the live coverage for a little bit.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with our feature match, Victor. And I have one question. Why?
Mostly against the Lost Box matchup, like I figured out that Vikavolt with Zapdos will kill Cramorant, and then my opponent won't have any comeback, so I will have just time to set up or attack with Raikou before, like, I could boss orders into Manafi, then item lock, and then use Raikou, or I can just retreat into Stoutland and take 2 prizes, so that's 3 prizes for nothing against Lost Box. Also, Vikavolt is good against Articuno, like it was in stream.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But seriously, why? where did the idea come from? Was it the inspiration Lost Box? Like, where did it start?
It started like I just was at home.
And you just thought to yourself, this.
But I was thinking about Vikavolt like before, but with Zapdos, there was a story that it was my dream.
Really? No! You dreamt this?
Yes.
I've got to get a better way of making deck lists here. That's incredible. You just dreamt about Lugia Vikavolt.
Yes.
I love that so much. Did you? And then you just woke up in the morning and thought, yeah, let's go. We're going to build this.
Yes.
It's paying off. Clearly dreams do come true.
Yes, but before, like, there was 2 years ago when I was playing Expanded with my friend Mateusz Oszkiewicz, who won Regionals.
Yes.
He started to play Vikavolt in Expanded Picarom.
Oh.
And then I started to play Vikavolt in Tina Champ. So that's
Tina Champ. I love that.
So that's the same situation like 2 years ago. He started to play Vikavolt with Palkia, I started to play Vikavolt with...
Everyone blaming
Lugia.
one with everything. It's working for you. That's fantastic. So do you play both? Do you play a lot of Expanded still, or are you playing a lot of Standard main lane?
No. Now I don't play Expanded, but before when there was a Limitless online series, I played it a lot because I loved Tina Champ deck.
It's very fun.
But now I don't play Expanded, I play a bit Legacy with
Yeah.
Genesect TX.
Genesect TX. That was mad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic, though. It was really nice to hear about different formats as well, remembering that we don't just have Standard going on at the same time. Yeah. But I love the concept of your deck list. Is absolutely fantastic. How did you feel that game went? It felt like you had quite domineering control over those games.
I mean, I didn't play that matchup before, so I didn't expect what to play. I was thinking before about Lumineon, but I had Lumineon in prizes because I quite thought about Palkia matchup, but not too much. And I wanted to use Lumineon, shuffle it, put Pokemon with less than 70 HP that can be knocked out by Articuno, and then just loop it with Lumineon. But I had Vikavolt.
Yep. So it didn't really matter too much, did it? And allowing your opponent to take that prize card, if they didn't even need to in the end, did they? They couldn't. You had managed to just secure that board state. But even if you had been able to give them a prize card, it allowed you to get out of that paralysis lock. It was really, really clever because you didn't have any other pivots in your deck, did you? You couldn't get back to the bench
No,
with, like,
I didn't play
anything else.
Birdkeeper.
No. Yeah, because the Birdkeeper generally is kind of what people play in Lugia to prevent that kind of situation, right?
With that Birdkeeper, I was thinking about that situation when everyone will play Birdkeeper. So I could not play because everyone will be tagged against that Palkia matchup somewhere, and I didn't want to waste space for it. Because for me that's like card that does nothing, but does much against one matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. So instead, you decided to go for consistency and making sure that you had room for the Zapdos. That was really important to increasing your damage to get to like a Cramorant and things like that.
Yeah. Also, Zapdos and Vikavolt quite adds up my consistency because I can just add speed energy to it and draw 2 cards. So.
Yeah, that's really nice. So you can still implement that no matter what.
And
that's really
for
clever.
some reason, I play 2 speed energy because I need them to Vikavolt, Raikou, and other stuff.
Yeah, you've got multiple.
But also
types.
it's my draw engine. So.
Yeah, because Lugia doesn't really have a draw engine, does it? You just use an energy engine, and that's kind of it. But a draw engine
in most situation,
is nice.
can't put Oranguru on the bench because I have Vikavolt, Zapdos, so.
Yeah, so you give yourself an extra draw engine that's more than 1 card as well.
Yeah.
The Oranguru only gets you 1 each turn. Speed energy, you get 4 total draw extra cards with that, which is enough for Lugia a lot of the time, right? I really like the idea of the Collapse Stadium in the deck as well, to just kind of remove your own obstacles as well as your opponents. That's really, really clever. Did you put that in for mainly your own use or for a matchup you were thinking of?
I was thinking mostly against that I had to put something that is Stadium and remove Stadium, but I didn't want to put Lost Vacuum because that's help mostly against roll the matchup, and Collapse Stadium improves against Lost Box, improves against Mirror, improves against most stuff, and also I don't have to discard card when, for example, against Mew, when he just plays against me and he use Judge. I have to, for example, use Ultra Ball and then Lost Vacuum into 1 card, and Collapse Stadium does it for 1 card.
Yeah, so you can do it essentially for free.
Yeah.
I think that's all we've got time for at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to head off. We'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you later.